I got involved in this about 20 years ago, and I actually came from Viacom. I was helping build video stores in Poland, and got repatriated back to the States and answered an ad for an account executive, frequent travel to New York. I was like, oh, that sounds intriguing, and ended up getting there, and it was an association management company that managed multiple associations, and just started getting plugged into the nonprofit life and loving every minute after. I think that the question around capacity building is capacity for what? And I think when I got involved in SIPE, we were talking a lot about capacity building. And I did a lot of work with associations in the United States and chambers of commerce. And moving into SIPE, it was like, what is this about SIPE and capacity for what? For a business association, all associations, chambers, really the first need is those fundamentals that really drive the organization forward. And I think without those fundamentals, where it's strategic planning, good leadership, good board, governance, all of those key elements working together, you can't really have good capacity. And that good capacity leads to good strategy. That good strategy leads to good results. And then after that, you're really looking at an organization that's not a good organization or great, they're a breakthrough organization. They're really making change happen within their countries, within their sectors. And I think that's one of the big things around capacity building. It's not just for a short-term gain. It's going to be a long-term marathon that we're going to be working towards to really get you to that performance excellence level. Associations can help in a lot of different ways, and I think one of the key quotes that I could probably bring forward, I was just in Lebanon with one of SIPE's partners, and one of the members, their manufacturing company, said, without this organization, we would not survive. And I think that was a resounding wow. You know, there's a huge impact in terms of what they're providing. And for example, there were many different things that they helped with. One was import taxes and reducing import taxes, or not paying taxes on raw materials for manufacturers, which was a huge thing. Instead of paying 9%, they paid 0%. Looking at the influence of other countries' exports and import practices, and how to really help the government realize that companies within our country are being taken advantage of. So an association can step in and be that collective voice rather than just one manufacturing company, for example, that's fighting against one issue. Now it's an issue of 30 to 40 different companies that you can go to the minister and say, here's the real issue here. Or in this one case, the association's executive director and president have a direct line to the prime minister and president of this country. So you can't get any better than that in terms of the value of an association or a chamber. When we talk about capabilities and what an association should really focus on, it really should start with a great strategic plan. And I think that's going to lead to a lot of great services, a lot of great benefits to the members. It's really what provides the relevance and value that you're going to move forward with. So, and you also define your mission. Who do you serve? And that's a question that typically isn't asked or isn't asked the right way, and you usually get blank stares, but they're saying, okay, we understand who we serve and how do we serve. But I think the capabilities that we're developing are the ones that are going to help our members do their jobs better. And we hear from the members saying, okay, you have this program or you have this international trade fair and exposition, that's going to help me sell more product. So everything drops to the bottom line. So I think whether it's international trade fair and expositions, advocacy also drops to the bottom line, but we know that's progressive benefits, so you have to add more benefits. Peer-to-peer networking, some of the affinity programs, whether it's port discounts or other things, those things are going to help with driving those benefits forward and making it more valuable. So I believe that the person that has the biggest, or the people, group of people or persons that has the biggest responsibility and capacity building of an association is the board and the executive director with the professional staff team. It needs to be one team, not an it's the board separately, and then you have your professional staff team. It's like them versus us. It's all one team working closely together and blending together what the priorities are, and really having that governance function where the board governs and it sets a strategic plan and budget, and then the management function is taking that budget and taking that plan and executing on it. So there's a shared responsibility, and I think there's a major responsibility of both the professional staff team and the board to listen to its members, focus groups, regular member value surveys and studies. I don't think capacity building can happen without listening to the voice of your member. I think an outside expert can really lend a lot of value. I think we come in with a clear lens in the process. I think we see our association partners different than maybe SIPE even sees some of the partners, because you're working with them on a regular basis. And we'll walk in and say, oh wow, why haven't we really thought of this? And then the question is, well, we can't change the bylaws because we can't get the General Assembly together, and we can't change the dues because that has to happen as well during General Assembly. So I'm always asking the questions, why are we doing it this way? Do we really need to change the dues, or can we change the member benefits, which doesn't have to be a bylaws change? So I think also, as an outside expert, bringing to bear the experience from other nonprofits. So again, I've worked with associations all over the world, a lot in the United States here as well. So bringing those best practices over has been extremely beneficial. A good partnership is trust, transparency, shared goals, a focus on progress towards those goals, and also honest, measurable progress reports, so that our partners really understand and know where they're headed. So I know that there's always a factor where they're trying to please and we're trying to work with them, but I think they really appreciate the honesty and sometimes tough love that goes with it. But there also needs to be a commitment to giving up some things by the partners. So it's really a partnership, and that's what it means. So our partners really need to give up some old ways, so maybe customs or other things, and really try some of the things that we're proposing because they're tried and true methods. So I think if there's a shared kind of trust that we go into together, I think that makes for a lot of success. I think what doesn't work in a partnership and coming in as an external advisor is, and I had this experience with Blockbuster when I was with them. We would come into a country, let's say Germany, and we would build the same stores, same size stores. We'd go with the same marketing efforts, and there were different laws in the country. The store size didn't work. We really didn't do our research and homework in some of those key areas, but I think is imposing what you think the partner needs versus having that dialogue and conversation, or saying, well, this is best practice, you have to do it. And they look at you like, no, this is not going to work. So really trying to get this into a form that really works for them too, culturally, politically. There's a lot of key factors, I think, that come to play with it. If you're coming as a consultant, you have your cookie cutter approach, it's not going to work. It will never work. I think in terms of women's associations and working with business women's associations in both Palestine as well as in Jordan, I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give is to never lose sight of empowering women in the sector and providing them with the tools to be successful. And I think it's always fighting for equality, diversity, all of those things that I think are important. And also to stress the fact that when I've worked with the business women associations, they comprised most of the small to medium enterprises that we worked with. So they were a powerful force, and it was almost underestimating the fact that they have power, that they can do this. And I think the strong business women's associations do it better than any other association. And I think the biggest thing that they offer is they think about what's relevance and value. How do we engage our members? And that's a key focus, doing member surveys, having regular meetings, discussing issues, I would say that they were hugely active. So I would say success factor is, that involvement, that getting the women together in the sector and really leveraging that power. And that's where I've seen success, and just plowing forward, because there are differences. You're dealing with a different type of culture in some of the countries, and I think some of the associations, that's the place you go to really find relief, where if you're going out in the middle of the night to a meeting, they think you're a prostitute or something, but I think that's the struggles that are happening now. I think major waves have been made in gender equality, especially when I was working in Jordan. It was just phenomenal to see that work happening, and very, very strong associations. Strategic planning is number one, I would say, for really figuring out what that roadmap is for the organization. So that's going to help you point you in the right direction. In terms of training, I think there's the one-on-one approach with some organizations works, where you're going into the office, you're talking through an issue with an executive director, and they need that assistance. But then there's focus groups that really help us dive deeper into key questions. So for example, if you do a survey, that's one tool for assessing or actually assisting capacity building, so you know exactly what to look for. But the focus groups help you get to that more granular level, where you're actually asking the key questions and you're seeing the expressions on people's faces, and they're not spending 3 minutes trying to fill out your survey, and you're really trying to figure out how this works. I think another piece is probably good mentoring, and really identifying those key issues that are central to one business association that's struggling in a certain area. So really just finding out, these are the top 3 areas that we need to work on. How do we focus? But it's just not bringing them training, it's bringing them tools, and then also a commitment to what are we going to do next time we meet. One of the first things is to assess what resources you have in the organization. So do a resource assessment. It doesn't have to be a huge one, but how many staff do we have? How focused are they? Where are they focused? Do they have roles and job descriptions? So that when we're ready, so strategic planning is great. That would be the next step. But I want to know during strategic planning what resources we have to be able to execute on that plan. So really looking at your key resources within the organization, putting that strategic plan together, making sure that you have the internal capabilities to execute. Because your board is your board; they're volunteers. They'll do what they can, but and also I think the developmental goals. This is another piece in terms of this. They should not shift and change with the next leader that comes in as president. They really should be goals that are set for a 3 to 5 year period that we're working on a regular basis. It shouldn't be, I'm the next president, I have 3 to 5 goals on top of the strategic plan we did 3 months ago. So I think we pass the gavel and we pass the strategic plan at the same time, and we make sure that that's consistent throughout. So I think there needs to be a commitment from the board. So if I'm ever told that the board of directors isn't going to be part of strategic planning, there's a small group that's going to do strategic planning to propose a strategic plan to the board, even if it's a client in the United States, I won't take that client on as a client, because the board needs to be engaged. That's their fiduciary role, to be engaged in setting the roadmap. So I think that commitment from the board is essential. If the board does not agree with a strategic plan, we need to go back and explain why a strategic plan is important. So we need to get their buy-in on the goals that are set. Also, the professional staff team needs to also be bought into the plan. I mean, it is their leaders that are setting the strategic plan, but they need to be able to say, is this realistic? Here's some data. How do we really get this prioritized right so that it's really hitting on all cylinders? So I think everyone needs to be on the same page when it comes to progress towards goals. And then also, one of the other things is that there should be a dashboard at every single board meeting, and it's really measuring the progress of the strategic plan. So when I'm sitting at a dinner table, I have a placemat, and I use that so I don't make a mess at the dinner table. The placemat for your board table should be a dashboard for your strategic plan so you don't make a mess at the board table. I always say that, and it's worked very, very well. So dashboard measuring progress. And then finally, I think one of the other pieces that I think makes it stick is to pull from your board interested goal champions. So let's say you have 3 to 5 goals. Let's get a goal champion for each. So their role is it's not to do everything for that goal. It's to make sure that the resources are there, that it's top of mind, and then if there's any issues with that goal, they understand it and aware of it. They can bring it up at the next board meeting. They can make major shifts and changes to that plan or to that approach and move forward. Currently working on a program in Lebanon where now, again, the before is there really hasn't been a focus on collecting data from the members, communicating benefits, utilizing staff resources as effectively as they could. And they're a great sized organization and doing well. So I think one of the key turning points was where we're trying to do a focus group and a survey, and it was a big resistance because, again, there could be issues in terms of who's going to see the survey, who's going to find out this information, but we had a chance to speak with the membership committee chair as well as the president, and we talked through the value of the survey and the focus group. But had we not spoken to all the members in advance while we were on site, so we spoke to quite a few members and also got feedback from them that a survey would be great, focus group would be great, they would like it anonymously. So now we have the blessing to move forward with collecting this data and a commitment that the information that we provide could be put into action. So there's several key areas. So I think that's going to be a huge transformation that's going to happen in Lebanon with the one association that we're working with. Associations that successfully develop and those that don't, I think I define one as a club, and it's never going to be more than a club where people get together and it's an event and that's it. They're really not providing any member benefits, they're not really advocating as well as they could be, but it's just 30 or 40 people that get together and say it's a great thing and we'll do that. But I think those that are progressing and can transform to an association that has core services, it has resources, it has the ability to influence and advocate and really provide a benefit to the bottom line of the members that they serve. I think it's the biggest difference. But I think the failure that I've seen is focus on internal squabbles. That's a big failure. It's always sitting at the meeting and I was sitting with one association and the board member, instead of coming ready to do the work, was arguing where his seat was and saying, "Madam President, why did you make me sit here?" And they had an argument for 15-20 minutes, which could have been good board time. So there's internal squabbles. No focus on a plan, that's a failure. They don't even know what a strategic plan is. Or if they have one, they dig it up and it's full of mold and dust. So these associations don't grow, and rather than rally when a crisis hits, what they do, they have no plan and typically retreat during a crisis. And that's what I've seen in terms of failure. So it's a very passive approach and reactive to what's affecting the marketplace and their members. Success is always looking for growth, looking for new opportunities, and looking for that next issue that's going to come up. And then looking for that next golden handcuff for their members. So it's going to be beneficial to them, but it keeps them handcuffed to the organization as well. So an organization that's a great association isn't going to allow someone to step in and actually take one of their golden handcuffs. They'll fight for it. Or they'll be developing the next two at the same time. So they're innovating, they're focused on mission, vision, and goals, period. That's their focus. They have a dashboard, they have performance measures set. There's strong energy around issues, and really they emerge as leaders when a crisis hits. I was working with one association and he said, "I'm so depressed about what's going on, I really don't want to go to my association meetings." They should be going to those meetings because it's taking them out of depression, it's actually giving them hope, and they're all uniting to fight an issue or a problem. So I would say reactive versus active, the club versus the association mentality are probably the biggest things that I've seen in those couple of examples. for someone new entering the association world, it's learn everything you can about that association, that market that you're in, your new program managers that are coming in, is to really understand and read. And I think one of the things that you want to hear from a partner is, and I heard this from one association I worked with, and they said, do you work for the association? And you want them to say, do you work for this partner? Because you know it all. So again, you don't need to know all the principles. You're going to learn that in terms of governance, and I mean, there's tools that are being developed and tools that are in place. But I think being that expert in understanding them is the key, because you lose credibility immediately if you know nothing about them. They're like, what? We don't have any members. What are you talking about? They're all beneficiaries. And then asking about dues when they don't have any dues or members. So you lose credibility pretty quickly. So that's getting up to speed. So that's what I do. It's my first step. I do a ton of research before I get involved. And I think the other part of it is listening, good listening skills, to talk to the partner and say, not what do you need or what program needs do you have, because they really don't know what you have. So it's like, what keeps you up at night every day? And what are some of the things that your members are really struggling with currently? And what capacity do you currently have? Do you have the right number of teams? So asking those probing questions so that you're getting kind of their opportunities or their mix of fears and other things. So I would throw that out. And then also in reading data, I'd ask for a strategic plan. It'd be one of the key elements. But if they don't have one, I would say, why isn't there one in place? Which gives you more insight into the organization. So I'd say that research is important. I think also there needs to be an immersion into the nonprofit world in terms of board governance, in terms of strategic planning and those pieces, knowing those key aspects, because then you can apply them. So it's almost reading about case studies here at site that have worked well, and what were those steps that took place to make this a success or a failure. So I'd say really just listening, and also the final thing is confidence, because I know I worked with one executive director, and the executive, I said, you're so good with this organization, and this was a really tough set of individuals that they were working with, probably the toughest I've seen. And they said, well, never let them see you sweat. Always show confidence, because if they smell blood in the water, they will come after you. So coming in as a program, if I were coming in as a program manager or as a consultant, I never, even if I feel like things are falling apart, I am the most confident person in that room, and I'm going to figure out a way to bring this back, because once you lose them, you erode that confidence, not only for that moment, but into the long-term partnership.